Hey, it is Sunday, May 19th, and wanted to give a little garden update. This is this is our bed of red Lesotho potatoes, and we are planning, if this rain holds off, we're planning on digging these today. Don't expect a whole lot out of them, but we know there's some in there, so we'll do a harvest on these today and see what we get. And right behind the red Lesotho potato bed, we have our candy onion bed. And a lot of the candy onions are starting to swell. So I think we're going to get some onions out of these. But the onions themselves look pretty happy and healthy. And like I said, it's starting to get some bulbs on some of them. So they're looking good. Okay, and right beside this candy onion bed, we have a small bed of green beans, and these are Blue Lake bush beans, and they're looking kind of pitiful. I think it's a combination of this area of the garden is very, very wet, so they're having trouble. And also, I'm going to swing up, we've got this huge oak tree that shades this area of the garden, so we think they need a little more sunlight. This is more red Lesotho potatoes we've got in this little side bed, and we'll dig them today, but I don't think we're going to get much out of these. The plants look real pitiful. Okay, over here on the side of the garden, we have a double row, and these are Blue Lake green beans. And I don't know how well you can tell from this angle, but down here it's wet and it's shady, and so they look a lot less impressive than they do on this end. We'll kind of try to pan slowly up. They look still kind of pitiful. And here they pick up and they look a lot better. And they get more sunlight out here, and the ground just stays drier. So probably get some out of this end of the row. We may get a few out of this end, but I'm not keeping my hopes up. Okay, this row is our red Russian kale, and it's still doing well. We've been enjoying it, but it's starting to get too hot for it. You can see there's some, looks like the leaves are kind of getting burned. So probably not going to have time this weekend, but next week is my last week at school. So we're going to probably harvest the entire row next weekend and go ahead and can it. So we'll have it, to eat throughout the summer and next winter. So that's a big project for next weekend. And these onions I just showed you probably have about another month before we'll harvest them. So hopefully we'll get some big, pretty onions out of this. Okay, next row over behind the kale, we have another row of the candy onions. And they're looking pretty good. Starting to get some swelling over here on these too. So hopefully if half of them do decent, we'll have a great crop of onions. We'll see. Moving on, this is our row of straight neck squash, and these plants are looking real pretty and healthy. And I thought, let me stand still, I am pretty sure the other day I found some squash on here, so let me see if I can find some of those for you. Yeah, there's some in here. Little baby, little small squash. And usually the first picking, the squash are kind of weird. They kind of have some of them have spots and little blossom end rot looking. So probably have to cull some of these, but definitely starting to make squash. And Alan thought he saw one sign of some plant that looked damaged to squash borers the other day. He just immediately pulled the plant and threw it in with the chickens. Hopefully they'll eat whatever larva's in there and get rid of that. But that's the only plant we've seen with any indication of squash borer damage so far, and that's what we lose it to every year. So I'm hoping they'll stay away. Maybe there's enough of them we can just pull the plant immediately when we find it, and we'll still get some squash out of it. But we've got a whole row of this, and it's looking happy and healthy. Okay, next row down from the squash, we have a double row of green beans. And we are trying the Blue Lake bush green beans and the Contender both this year to see which ones we like better. We've grown both and liked them both. We've done them on alternating years. So this year we're going ahead and growing them at the same time. This is a row of Blue Lake bush green beans. And right beside it, we have a row of Contender bush green beans. So it's Blue Lake, Contender, and right now one doesn't seem to be outperforming the other. They look fine, but we'll see when we start picking them. And behind there we have another row of, this is Blue Lake bush green beans, and then on the fence is Blue Lake climbing green beans. Can't wait to have some fresh green beans. I love green beans and squash. Okay, this was our bed with our walking onions. And this is the pile of walking onions. They were getting out of hand. They were all going to seed and just had great big woody stems. So we went ahead and cut them down, and we'll let them come back and grow fresh from the bulbs. And in the meantime, we sowed zinnia seed in this bed. So maybe we can get some pretty color to bring in some pollinators over here. And then the onions should put back out in the fall and be ready to go. They're already starting to put back out. Here's a couple coming up from the base. If they come up, we'll eat them fresh. They're good in, if you make stewed squash, they're good to put a little bit of green onion in your stewed squash. So if we get a few here and there to harvest, we'll go ahead and do that. And then hopefully this will be a pretty little bed of color for us when the zinnias come up. This is our fig tree, and it's doing well. It looks beautiful. And I was about to tell you how we're not getting any figs off of this tree because we had figs that came on early in the season and they never did anything. But I'm seeing little figs all over it. It's the first time I've noticed. I just decided that because it aborted all the earlier figs, so I decided maybe they didn't get pollinated or whatever. There's supposed to be a wasp that comes and does something to the fruit that makes it swell and produce a fig, but this thing's covered with tiny figs, so maybe it was just too early. There's some, little tiny ones. Some just put out because I come out here almost every day. And there's another one, and they're all over it. So maybe it was just too early. Maybe it's doing it again. Well, that's a happy surprise. All right, well, I was about to tell you we weren't getting any figs this year, but maybe there's still hope. That's fun. Oh, wow, they're all over it. There's some down here in these inner branches. I just decided it was too shady for it, and we could just enjoy the pretty bush until we get land where we can put it somewhere out in the sun. But it's got baby figs all over it. Well, that's pretty fun. All right, well, I'll give you another fig update after a while. And this is our Siberian kale. Again, we have a row of it I showed you over there. And these are 3 plants we put over here in this side flower bed, and they're doing real well. They still look real nice. When we pull the others, I think we're going to leave these and let these go to seed, and we'll save the seed for next year because we enjoy the Siberian kale. This is one of our blueberry bushes, looking very, very pitiful. Just the leaves are chlorotic. You can see the signs of chlorosis in the blueberry plants are when you have the yellow leaves with the green veins, and 2 things could be the cause of that. Either there's not enough iron for the plant, or it could be a problem with the acidity level in the soil. So a little while back we applied iron to these plants, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and should have had time to work, show some improvement, and we haven't seen anything. So our next step is to work on making the soil more acidic for the blueberry plants, because probably not a problem with iron because everything around it, here's our mint and our kale, and that fig is all right here in the same area, and they all look healthy and fine. So it's probably something to do with the pH level of the soil for blueberries. So to make the soil more acidic, the next thing we did, we went and got some sulfur and put sulfur around this plant. But usually it takes 2 to 3 months to change the acidity level in the soil to help the blueberries. So we'll see if that works. And after that, I don't know. We're out of troubleshooting on the blueberries, but hopefully that will help. And right beside this blueberry plant and our Siberian kale, we have a nice little patch of mint going crazy over here. And this is, I actually think it's a mix. We had peppermint and spearmint plants, and I think we kind of just have a little combination of different mints growing over here. So I started sniffing the leaves, and there's a subtle difference in some of them, but it's mint. Hey, this is one of our peach trees, and they are starting to show some color over here. And this poor tree, I'm a little worried for it that it's got so many peaches on this branch, this side of the tree, and it has the whole tree bowed over. I hope it doesn't split it in half, but it seems to be doing okay as right now. It's just really, really loaded with peaches. So hopefully we'll get some peaches out of the deal. Over here is our cherry tree, and it was covered with pretty little red cherries a couple days ago, and now they're all gone. But the birds are really, really happy. So maybe when it gets bigger, there'll be enough for us to share with the birds and us to get some out of the deal too. This is our other peach tree, and we have some really pretty, almost ripe peaches on here, looking beautiful. But the birds have knocked down over half of them. I'm going to pick these up in a minute and carry them and give them to the chickens. But the birds really enjoy our fruit trees. There's one up there that's been pecked to death that has ants on it now. I'll just pick it and give it to the girls. They get almost ripe, and then the birds attack. Zoom in on this one. Got some pretty little color on our peaches. Here's one. Here's one that a bird pecked a big hole out of. Yum. Oh, here's a pretty one. Gosh, they're beautiful. God, they're still so hard. I don't know, I'm tempted just to go ahead and pick them. I may do that. Anyway, this is our peach tree. Finally giving us some pretty fruit. Okay, I'm around to another section of the herb bed, and this is just catnip. But one of our cats goes crazy over it, so it's fun to grow, just to bring it a sprig for her every once in a while, let her go insane. Our other cat doesn't care about it. These are some chives that are struggling to come back this year. This is the patch of spearmint and the peppermint, or I may have them reversed, but there's spearmint and peppermint out here. And we moved some of this last year to over where I saw you about the water faucet, and it's going crazy over there. It's not doing as well over here, but it's still here. And this is oregano. A huge plot of oregano over here. And over here, climb through here. Over here is our rosemary. Have some little apples on our apple tree. There's another one. We have yet to eat an apple from this tree. There's one up there. So we may get one this year. And this is another apple tree, and has a couple little apples on it. There's one down here and one up here. And this beautiful tree is our plum tree, and doesn't have a single plum on it. And it blooms really, really, really early in the spring. I think I showed it in an earlier video. It's just gorgeous and covered with blooms, but it's so cold when it blooms. I don't think there were any pollinators out. So next year I'm going to get out with a little Q-tip or my little paintbrush, and I'm going to try to pollinate this thing by hand, because it was just hanging with blooms. And I don't know how else it's going to get pollinated because it blooms so early. So next year I'm going to get out here and try to do the job. We'll see how that goes. And here's another example of one of our blueberry bushes with the chlorosis. It was hanging with blueberries, and the blueberries just kind of dry up before they can get ripe, and all these leaves have the green veins in the light green leaf. So we treated this one. We put iron on it earlier, probably about 3 weeks ago, and it showed really no improvement. So we put sulfur around here to adjust the pH level of the soil in this too, and I'll do another video update on that in a couple months and see if it shows any improvement. And if that's not it, we don't know what the problem is, but hopefully the sulfur will work. Okay, that's the row of squash I showed you earlier. I'm done at the other end now. These are the rows of Blue Lake green beans and contender green beans. At this end of the row, we have eggplant. And it's looking good, except for when it's really young, it gets these little flea beetles on it. And, I mean, they're just annoying. They don't usually do enough damage to hurt the plant. They just eat little holes in them, but once the plants get big, it doesn't affect them at all. So I just try to come out here and brush them off every once in a while. I don't want to put any poison out or anything. We don't do that. But it does aggravate you to come out and see all these little beetles biting all these little holes in your plants. But that's what this is. And the plants still look healthy and pretty. They should do fine. This is our eggplant. And swing around this way is another bed of candy onions. And we're getting some nice swelling on these guys. We should definitely, well, hopefully get at least a few nice onions out of this. There's a pretty big one. Still, these probably have about another month to go. 3 weeks to a month. So I'll keep showing you these. Okay, and this is our strawberry bed, and the plants are looking healthy and gorgeous. This is every other year we do a deep mulch, and this is the year that we deep mulched them. And the year after we do that, it's usually kind of a rebuilding year, because we cover them up completely and cover them deep, and then the strong, healthy growth will push through. That's kind of how we don't ever separate the 1-year-old plant, 2-year-old plants, any of that. We just cover it up every other year really, really deep, and what pushes through is our new strawberry crop. So the year we do the deep mulch, we generally don't get too many strawberries. We get enough for some fresh, and I've frozen some, but don't get near as big a harvest. So this year's our regrowing year, so next year should be our good harvest year again. But they're looking fine. They're looking beautiful, and we're getting a lot of healthy new growth. So next year should be our good harvest year on these. This is our rebuilding year. But they're looking good, looking healthy. And they're already starting to put out babies. And I'll start catching some of these. I want to try to move the babies around to that front flower bed this year. Turn it into more of a fruiting area for us. Or at least it'll be a pretty ground cover if they don't make any fruit. This area is pretty fun. These are our thornless blackberries, and this again is the area where we just had some blackberries that were in black pots, and we just put them and set them down on the ground and until we could get our trellis built, and the plants filled up the pots and the roots grew out through the bottom of the black pots, and they just tacked down under the pots. And when we picked the pots up and moved them, there were still roots that had come out of the pots into the ground, just left there. This is what's grown up just from those roots. So they are great. I mean, really prolific. They'll grow anywhere. But we have lots of fruit on here. And it's just starting to turn. We're starting to get a little bit of color. So should have blackberries before long. I'm tickled to death with this. And we're going to start doing some cuttings off of these plants and starting them in pots to have some more to plant somewhere else. But these are looking really good. I mean, they're over my head. We're supposed to cut these back down to about 4 feet tall. We're going to do that soon. Okay, this is on the outside of the girls' pen. We planted some banana peppers and some Roma tomatoes on the fence. We had to put up chicken wire there to keep them from pecking them to the ground. Hopefully once they get up over that, once they get up too tall for the chickens to jump up and rip the leaves off, we're going to grow them up this fence to give them some shade. And then right here, this is a row of contender green beans, contender bush. And on this side, we have Blue Lake green beans. Doing the same thing on the side of the garden, kind of alternating contender and contender and Blue Lake to see which one does better. And this whole side of the garden, just when you kind of do an overview, it looks bad. Let me swing around slowly and show the other side. I mean, this side of the garden is lush and green and beautiful. I think we planted those green beans right there at the same time we planted the ones I just showed you. And it's just got to be wet. This side of the garden is higher and drier. It's just gorgeous over here. Then I swing back around here and it just makes me kind of sad because they're not doing as much. I'm hoping everything's started, it's established, the roots are growing. So hopefully when it dries out some more, that this will come on. That's my hope. We'll see. These Roma tomatoes, they're starting to look a little bit better, but they're pretty pitiful. We started them from seeds in flats ourselves and set them out. They're starting to look a little bit better, but they're nowhere near where they should be for how long they've been in the ground. We set these out at the same time. Let me turn it on. Well, I'll just walk with it. I don't want to show too much walking. We set these out at the same time that we set these Better Boys out. I'll try to show you a comparison of that. Here's one of the Romas. Here's a Better Boy. I mean, these are huge and gorgeous. They're actually starting to get little blooms on them. And this is what your tomato plant should look like. And another comparison of that. Here's one of the Better Boys. And right beside it, the Romas. And there's no comparison. But all these Better Boys are in pots and they're up high, so they're not waterlogged. And basically everything on this side of the garden's just waterlogged and rotting, especially on this end. This row we planted Blue Lake green beans, and this whole row we've already replanted because none of them came up. The seeds are just in the ground and rotting. So we've replanted, waiting on them to come up. Same thing on this row. This is a row of contender, and just half the seed rotted, and what's up doesn't look good. Hopefully when it dries out, it'll help. Well, we're waiting to see. We planted some contender bush beans on this side of the fence too. Wait for it to come up. These are planted a lot later than the others. We planted a row of Blue Lake bush green beans on this fence, on the back side of the fence where our Roma tomatoes are. And the Romas, they are starting to look a little bit better. So hopefully they're going to come on. They just looked so bad for so long. I'm still hoping they'll kick in. Otherwise, I'm going to be sad. I used the tomatoes we canned last year to make soups for my school lunches all year long and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm going to miss that if I don't have it this year. Maybe they will get enough off these Better Boys to can. I just love the Romas for canning. They make such good canned tomatoes. But we'll make do with whatever we get. All right, this row is our peppers, and they look bad too. Everything's just so wet, and it hasn't been real warm. It's starting to warm up, but it's been cold and wet, so cool and wet, and that's not good for peppers. Anyway, this end of the row are Emerald Giant bell peppers. And then on this row, we have Cubanelles. And we love peppers, so hoping these kick in and come on before long. All right, so this whole row is Cubanelle. And then this row are the Emerald Giant bells until you get to here. And these are our mammoth jalapenos. And they're not looking real mammoth right now, but hopefully they'll kick in. I'm not losing faith. Gotta give it a little time. All right. This row, we have cucumbers, and they've done badly too. There's huge gaps and skips. We have more started in flats over here to set out in the gaps. This is our flat of, this is a flat of cucumbers, and we're going to set these out today. That's on our chore list of things to do today. This is a flat of zinnias. This is a flat of spinach. It's getting pretty much too hot for that. And these are pretty cool. These are moonflowers. Somebody gave us a pack of moonflower seed for a gift. They bloom at night. So we're going to find somewhere to put these and see what they do. But they're a really cool looking plant. Almost looks like a big tie vine. It's pretty. And this is okra we have started, and it's starting to come up. This little row right here is okra. This, on this row, is another row of Blue Lake bush green beans. And we have them planted down to here. And this is where broccoli was. We pulled it and replanted more Blue Lake bush green beans. The squirrels have eaten the broccoli down to the ground again. Down at the end of this row is some Swiss chard, and it's still doing well. Starting to bolt. Probably going to pull it and put it up, or just pull it and eat it the same time we pull up all the red Russian kale. And this is our patch of Stoll's evergreen sweet corn. And it's looking pretty. It's looking healthy. The only thing I'm worried about is it's starting to tassel. And it seems way too early for that to be happening. And I can't remember if it happened this early last year. So, I don't know. This has just been a weird growing season. It's been really wet and pretty cool. So, I don't know. If it doesn't work, I still think we have time to plant another crop of sweet corn. But this did so well last year, and we got so much corn off of it. And this year, I don't know. I'm not real. I don't have high expectations for this. I imagine we're going to end up taking it out and replanting. We'll see. We're going to give it some time. Don't think it should be tasseling at 3 feet though. And this is our patch of garlic, and it's looking like it's time to harvest. It's turning brown and it's bending over. So that's on our chore list, our list of things to do today, is we're going to pick this garlic. And I'll come back and show you what we get out of it yet. And this is the trellis we built last year, where we moved those thornless blackberries from the pots. So these are the ones that we moved over here to the new area, and they are covered with berries. I mean, covered with berries, and they're starting to turn. So if we can keep the birds off of them long enough, maybe we'll get a little berry harvest this year. But they're looking really good. And we have some nice new growth too. Lots and lots of berries. And this is our asparagus bed. I have some asparagus ready to pick that we've had the cabbage in front of, but apparently you can't have brassicas in a yard where you have squirrels because they love them. So they've eaten this one down to the ground. This one still looks like it might have a chance, but the squirrels eat our broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, anything we plant. Squirrels eat it up. We have lettuce planted in the planters and the holes in the cinder blocks in the front of this bed, and it's looking pretty. And I think that is it on the garden update. Thanks for watching.